Hey, so tonight's task is to implement part of the REST API for the feature toggling service. I'm just building everything at the moment, so I need to wait on that. Yeah, my laptop is truly not happy with things at the moment. It's trying to take off, so I have to muddle through with that. I also can't remember. Wow, Bash's something's broken. Right, lovely. Yes, projects, right. So let's start off by creating our API project. Last time I did this, I got it in completely the wrong place, so do I want to use that? No, I think I'll use the command line because what is going on there? Stop it. You know what? Just close that. Start a new one. Right. DDev projects. Crispin. Right, nothing going on in there. Good. I should have the latest version of .NET Core installed. I do. Good. Can I remember how to create an API project? No, because I've only done it once, and that was yesterday, testing that I could do it successfully. .NET Core. No, let's do aspnetcore. Getting started. There. If in doubt, Google everything. I don't want a Visual Studio way of doing it. I want a command line way of doing it. I wonder what will happen if I just run that in my source directory. Will that do what I want? Let's remove that. Give you device or the resource busy. Probably Atom. Maybe not. Folder in use, but by what? Shut Rider as well then. Not Rider. Right, that means there's probably some process hanging about doing something naughty. Let's kill that. Git, Google, blah blah blah. Worries me that I have no idea what half this stuff is. I used to know these kind of things. Oh well. Clearly a .NET process. Right. Right. Let's start by creating the project. .NET new web name Crispin API REST. An API could be anything. Let's call it HTTP. Or is that going to clash with half the things? Probably. Well, we nearly created it in the right place, I think. Huh, we did. That's surprising. Right, now let's relaunch Rider with our project. How can my average CPU be at 101%? That doesn't seem entirely possible. Right, it's loading pretty quickly, considering. Can I start doing things already? No. Right, well, while that's messing about, let's tax the CPU even more by launching Electron applications. Still synchronizing. Yes, so no .NET Core is not entirely supported yet. Stop telling me. And that can go away, that can go away. Let's open that. Right. So, this is roughly what the API is going to look like. We're going to start off with the simple stuff, which is a get to the toggles endpoint, which will return an array of toggles, and then we'll flesh out the links section of the toggles, because we want to have a nice navigatable API, so we'll have links to self, so that hopefully all actions in the API can be discovered by just starting at the root of the API. We'll then move on to doing a post and creating a toggle. So I think let's just reorder these to indicate that's not entirely what I wanted to do. Do that. There we go. Close enough. And while we're at it, let's just select all of these and add checkboxes, so we can tick things off as we go. Right, now this has finished loading and telling me 4 times, despite the fact that we're only loading 2 projects, that .NET Core is not fully supported. I'll make it tell us a bunch more times now. Let's add our new REST project in here. I assume something's happening. Wow, look at this bash lag. It's probably the fact that I've plugged in an extra monitor onto this and I'm just using the inbuilt GPU of a oldish laptop. And I couldn't find a spare DVI or HDMI cable, so it's just running on VGA. So, not great. Right, let's have a blank commit just for our blank project, so that when I inevitably break it, we can reset and start from scratch again. So let's say API add blank API project. Small commits and often, as always. Stop telling me .NET Core. Can I make it ignore messages? That's really annoying me. No. Oh well, we'll just delete them then. Right, let's see what's in here. So we have a program CS, a million unused imports. We build a web host. Alright, and then let's go back into presentation mode, as that's a bit easier for people to see. There we go. Right, so we've got the building of a web host and then running. Don't seem to have any IIS integration, which is nice because I don't like IIS. And then we're using a startup class, which is here. So we register some services. We've got some kind of exception pages and a default hello world. So I guess if we just run this, and get us a new tab. I'm not quite sure what port we're going to bind to yet. Or is this still restoring NuGet packages and thus downloading half the internet? Oh, hello world works. Excellent. Well, at least we've got a working API, even if it's not very useful. Unless you want to say hi to the world. At least the local host world, anyway. Right, we now need an MVC package of some form. I think there were two. Let's go for the NuGet package manager, which still looks lovely. Right, let's try the word core. That's a good thing to search for. That won't be common on NuGet at all. I'm hoping you have something cached here. There we are. Not that. There was like an MVC core package, but I cannot remember what it's called. Maybe that. NuGet core. I know it was called MVC.core, I think. Ah, that sounds about right. Yes, that's the thing. And the reason we want this one rather than the version without the core suffix on it is that the other one comes with things like Razor and other kind of viewy things, and as we're just doing a Restful API, we don't want all of that. Why have I got two versions of this package? What is the difference? Oh, cores and core, okay. We might want cores later, but for now we'll ignore it. Please wait, downloading the internet. Right, if I remember rightly, we have to add it as a service. Add MVC versus add MVC core. I wonder what the difference between that is. This adds essential services specified. Right. This adds services. Yeah, let's try that. Oh, thanks, Ryder. Let's not do IntelliTab then. Right. That sounds like it should be before other things. So let's do MVC. Use MVC with a root builder. Oh, that sounds helpful. Root. Okay, so this is like old map root. Let's see, a name and a template. Let's see if I can remember the syntax for this. Name, default. Oh, that was spelled right. Template, controller / action equals do I want action on there really? Maybe. Oh, okay, we'll leave it like that for a second. Right. So assuming I haven't completely messed up the routing, don't indent it like that. That looks horrible. Let's add a controller, public class home controller, MVC controller, no, controller, yes, good, public string get, maybe, return higher world. Let's see what happens. Right, that's our existing hello world, but if we then do /home, home get, right, I definitely don't want the action in the URL. I suppose we could do attribute routing. I've never been a huge fan of attribute routing. I think I'm not sure if I like the idea of having the attributes in the controller. I want a convention, like a root template, but I don't want that to display anything. Maybe if we do index instead. Rerun. Does that recompile as well? Oh, it does. Good. Once I figured out how to hook up controllers, the rest of this will be much smoother. Maybe. Right, good, so it's not that URL anymore. It's not that one either. Yeah. Okay, let's see, can we do attribute routing instead? .use no, apparently not. I'm sure there was an extension method for doing it. Map put. Oh, maybe that does what I want. Map get. That's a root builder that only matches get requests for the given template. And nothing. Now the other thing that was in was this, was use MVC with default root. Controller equals, okay, so we can specify default action. That might work for what we're after. Control equals / and let's not use the ID for the second. So I'm going to do it myself again rather than use the inbuilt. So we'll do map root default, and it was what, controller yeah, we'll actually have a home controller because that'll be the root of our API. Action equals index, why not? No, get. I like naming things, so in here I'd like to have something like public string post. and that would be our post handler. And I'm not going to support parameters yet, we can add those later. Return post response, and let's make that get response. Oh, help. I need that quite often. Probably not the right kind of help though. So now if we do that, we go to get response. And then if we do home/post, yeah, I don't want that to happen. HTTP post. I think that does what I'm after. No, I think Rider had a REST tool built into it. Test Restful web service. Might have to have a play with that in a second. Because I want to do a post to that. Let's see what this test Restful web service thing is about. Well, it needs to be on the right for a start. Wow, that layout really doesn't work on the right. Okay, we'll move it back to the bottom. Right. Path, HTTP host port. Well, that could be better. Localhost 8080. No, we're hosting on that. Path home. Headers, request parameter, make a post. No request parameters, nothing else, blah blah. Why do I suspect I need to do that? Yeah, that ain't happening. How do you tell it to ignore the action? Probably by removing the action from the root. But then what makes that the get? I think attribute routing might be the way to go. Let's rerun that again. That. Right, so that's our 404 effectively. What if I do that? Click with Alt to hide. Right, let's figure out how to do attribute routing. Can I do this? And put one on the class. Now the question is how to make this do attribute routing. it's on this app. Use MVC with default root. Nope. Root. Is there a generic add roots service provider default handler? Yeah, that looks about right. I don't know. Action descriptor. Okay. And this is clearly not the way to do it. God knows what I'm doing. I don't want to provide all that. No, back to Google. aspnetcore attribute routing. It's probably a NuGet package, or a namespace that I've missed. Conventional routing. Well, it is a convention, but it's not doing what I want. You see, that seems like such a weird route to me. Well, actually, let's go and have a look at our API. Toggles should return everything. Posting to that should do that. Toggles ID. Yeah, no. I want attribute routing. Attributing users attributes. Yes. Use the configure method and no route is passed. Use MVC and oh, you just don't pass routing to it. Okay. That's weird. How much do you want to bet this isn't going to work? I'm going to add HTTP GET to that for the fun of it. Yeah. See, I'm good at web dev. Oh, I suppose we do want to use the testy thing for this. Where's it gone? There we are. Let's do a get to home. That did what I wanted. Now do a post to home. And that did what I wanted. Excellent. We can use attribute routing for the time being, although I still don't like it. There are a lot of things I don't like. Anyway. So, let's create some folders. Now, I don't like doing a folder for controllers and a folder for views and a folder for models, and I think that's all fairly silly way of separating an API. I think it's better to group things by feature rather than by functionality. Because I mean, when you open a project and you see that it's got a roots like a controllers folder and a views folder and a models folder, all you can really tell is that it's an MVC project of some form. Whereas if you open a project and it's got a person folder and an account folder and a contact folder, then you're probably looking at something to do with billing people or people's bank accounts. So yeah, I think grouping by feature is the way forward. So we'll call it toggles because that's what our root name is going to be. And we're also going to have a folder for the home. I want to call it root controller, really. Yeah. So another question. Can you have a blank root? Will that now serve the root of my API? So we'll do a get to the root of our API. This, yeah. Cool. That answers that question. Right, so let's move this to its own file. And we're going to move it into the root namespace. And we're going to rename it root controller. Let's fix your namespace. Crispin API. And we will make this return something useful later, like an object of all of our roots or something. So we'll do this. Yeah. API add root controller and update readme with checklist. Technically, I suppose there should be two separate commits, but right, now let's have our controller for this. I wonder what this is going to do. Toggles controller. Interesting. It is a controller, it's just not the right kind of controller. Yeah, we'll leave that for the time being. And we'll do our routing. So we have a root. For this one is toggles. So our get method, that's really not how you specify a get. Root blank and is an HTTP get. Now, we now need to set up some way of talking to our domain model in the background. Can we just do a OK? Yep. Right, so what we first need to do is add a reference to our domain. And we're also going to install the NuGet package, if we can get at the search box. Mediatr. We're still not compatible with .NET, that message really needs to go away. I don't want to switch off all writer error messages though. Oh well. Right, so we'll add Mediatr to this. So Mediatr is a library which lets us do a lot of separation of concerns. We can, rather than directly executing data access or domain methods in our controller actions, we can build up a query of some form and then just dispatch it via Mediatr. a handler that's been registered elsewhere will run and do something. In our case, call our domain model and build things up. Right. Now I have to work out how to hook up Mediatr to aspnetcore, which is probably in here somewhere. Is there a Mediatr thing in there? That would be nice. No. Right. There might well be an integration package for Mediatr. Why would Media Browser be above Mediatr? Oh well. Well, we are currently using the standard dependency injection, so we'll probably want that. I think we'll end up changing a lot of this in the future. Well, this is what you get for streaming something without really knowing what you're doing. Let's search Mediatr. Oh, that can go away. ASP. If you're using, you can skip all this and use this package, which includes an add Mediatr assembly extension. Excellent. Services.add Mediatr. Now, do we need to pass an assembly into here? That's a useful sized suggestion window and tooltip that I cannot read. Assemblies. Now, I think we will put our handlers in the domain project, because effectively anything can submit them. So we will want to do, we need a reference to that, so let's use the toggle. So we'll do type of toggle dot assembly. Now with luck, we can now create, do we want the handlers there really? Yeah, yes. Right, new directory, handlers. I know I just said I don't like grouping by functionality, but we'll put them all in here, including their models. So we'll create a class which will be our get all toggles handler. This is an I request. I can't remember what the Mediatr interface is called. Ah, we don't have a reference to Mediatr in this project. That would explain that. Right. Mediatr dot I async request handler. Yeah, and we are now, our request is not existent yet, but it'll be get all toggles request, and our response is get all toggles response. And let's create the response, and then this needs to implement is it an I request, or does it have to be I async request? That doesn't look like it has to be. Right, get all toggles response. This now needs a method implementing. Right, if we just shut that. So this is how Mediatr works roughly. We create a request in our controller. So if we go back to our toggle controller and we create a constructor. I'm outside the controller, that would explain why. We take in a reference to Mediatr. And we can then create our request in here. So we do var request equals new get all toggles request. We will fill in some data here if we had any. For a get all toggles request, we don't actually have any data. And then we will get a response by just saying mediator.send. Oh, we don't have the async methods on here anymore. This is nice. Request. And we want an await in that. I assume ASP handles having async methods. I mean, it's not likely that it wouldn't. And now that we've got our response, we can then do return new JSON result response. And that's all that basically every one of our handlers has to have. We create a request, populate it with things that we get from the request body that have come into the method and any URL parameters, and then we can just invoke Mediatr and the relevant handler will magically get invoked. So in here we don't have any parameters because it's just a request, and our response is going to contain an IEnumerable of toggle just trying to work out at the moment whether I want to return the toggle raw here or if I want to return a view and thus all plugins would get the same views, or do we just return the domain models? I think we should return projections because I don't want to expose the idea that we've got domain models loaded when we're just querying things. So let's go and have a look at our projections. Now we don't have anything that is just a plain toggle at the moment, so it'd probably be a good idea to have one of those. So let's have a public class toggle view, and that's got a GUID ID and a public string name. Nope. And a public string description. God, my typing has really gone to pot. And a public boolean of active. Is that it? No, we also have a public IEnumerable of string, which are our tags. So for the time being, we have our list of toggles. And our request has nothing, our response is just a list of toggles, and as this is an initial test and we just want to check the thing works, all we're going to do in here is return a new response and we'll hardcode some toggles in. Why is it not letting me do that? Well, it's getting settable. Oh, I declared it private for some reason. Alright, let's do that. New toggle view. Just add a couple of these and give them an ID equals GUID, new GUID, name equals 1, description equals no, tags equals new string array 1, A and B. Right, and let's have a different name for these. 2 and 3. Yes, and unsubscribe. And we'll have some different tags in them, including this one, which won't have any. And it occurs to me that by default a tag array should be an empty array. So we'll just add a constructor to this and just say tags equals enumerable empty. Right, so we've now got our handler, a request and a response, and in our controller we are creating a request, dispatching it to Mediatr, and then returning a response. So let's see if it actually works. I have a vague feeling like dependency injection or something might bite us, but that Mediatr package should have taken care of it for us. We're currently using the inbuilt aspnetcore container, which is, I gather, fine, but if we start wanting more features, then I will probably switch over to using structure map, which is my favourite container. Right, test RESTful service. Right, our path is /toggles. We're going to do a GET request to the root. Oh, we got an error. Unhandled exception. No service type JSON has been requested. Okay. Maybe this is where I used aspnetcore rather than there. I wonder if that makes a difference. Right, try again. Oh, and it worked. A nice JSON response back. Okay, this apparently can't format it. Oh well. But excellent, that shows the point of Mediatr, or the usage of Mediatr anyway. That can go away. So our controllers should end up very thin, very light. We can then reuse our requests and responses with other interfaces. So if we decide that we want to, I don't know, have a RabbitMQ connector or WebSockets or something else, we can just use the same requests and responses. As long as we can build the whatever properties the requests want from our whatever incoming data format might be that RabbitMQ messages or whatever. As long as we can build the right request, then we can reuse a lot of code. It also gives us a nice testing point as well, in that we can inject a faked mediator into any of these controllers and then invoke the GET request and assert that the mediator had the right request sent to it and fake a response. And we can also give a response and test that the controller returns the right kind of response. But we can also test the other way around, because our handlers are just classes with a single handle method on them. We can create an instance and then pass it a faked message and assert that we get the right kind of response back. So let's split those into the right files. Oh, why does that dialog not tick all the boxes by default anymore? Let's see, what have we changed? Lots of things. We've added Mediator and a demo of toggle. Right. API add Mediator, hard-coded get all toggles request. Now, the other advantage with Mediator is that we can start using decoration. So if we decide that we want to put correlation IDs on all of our requests and responses, we can wrap the Mediator pipeline with a decorator. So where we have this handler, we can create another handler which acts as a decorator. So you could have something along the lines of, if we just do this, copy and paste it here. If we had said this was our, I don't know, correlation decorator, this would be T request, T response, T request, T response, and this would have a constructor which took in another request handler, that would be decorated. And now in our handler, rather than returning an actual implementation ourselves, we could do something like var correlation ID, not that I can type, is message correlation ID, or GUID.new GUID. And then you'd call your internal method, so you'd then say await decorated. Oh, okay, you can crash instead. My goodness, this is. It probably doesn't like the fact that I've made a million syntax errors. Or decorated dot handle message. I'm not sure what you'd be doing with this, but that's how you'd implement a decorator into the pipeline. And you just need to be able to register that with the container used by ASP. The downside is I don't know if the built-in container supports that or not. If not, we'd have to switch to a container which does support decoration, which would be, well, I'd switch to structure map, because structure map container, best container, or simple injector as a good run-up. Right, we also, while doing this, modified our projection. We created a view. So we have this view here, but we're not actually using it. I think we should probably do so. So our all toggles collection can now be a toggle view. And this is now GUID toggle view. In fact, don't actually need it to be a dictionary anymore, we could just use a list. And the only reason we had a dictionary beforehand was so that we could just use key ID value as name. But now that we're actually storing more data, we can just use a list of toggle view, because we're only ever going to get one toggle created event per view, so that's fine. And this now just needs to read toggles, add new toggle view, and now we just need to populate everything. So ID equals e.id, name equals e.name, description e.description, active e.active. Now, interesting, we don't have an active state, but we know that our active is always false by default. Tags equals e dot. Again, we don't have. So in fact, our all toggles view needs to subscribe to more than just the toggle created event. I'm not going to bother populating that or that because those are the defaults. And now we do want a dictionary because we're going to have to be looking up repeatedly. So let's undo that. Dictionary of GUID toggle view. Dictionary GUID view. That is staying exposed as that. And instead we are going to just say add e.id, comma, new toggle view. That's valid, isn't it? Toggle view has no constructors defined, but I'm not using a constructor, I'm using property population. Maybe it will build anyway. Yes, all the tests are going to fail because we've just changed the structure internally. Yep. But apparently that compiles even though it's all red and underlined. Good. Now, we can no longer do that because our toggle doesn't implement iComparable, or iEquatable for that matter. So, what we need to do here, this should have a single item. So we'll just do toggle stop single. View. And then we'll say view dot should satisfy all conditions. Last finish layout. View dot ID. What? I gone and defined everything as private again. No. And it does have a constructor defined, don't lie to me. Ah, and now everything suddenly works again. Oh good. Where was that test we were fixing? Ah, and now the properties are there. Right, that should be toggle.id. And so that I don't have to type repeatedly. Name, description, active, and tags. Name, description, active, and tags. Except we know that these should be false, and this should be empty. And here what we'll just do is assert that it contains two items. So toggles select view.id should be new first.id, second ID, and ignore order true, because it's backed by a dictionary and we can't guarantee the order because we're not doing any sorting. And let's get rid of bad white space because I still can't format documents. This is the same as that. So do this. That created and import that. Oh, we can't import link. Great. Using system.link. Right, so here we'll use the same structure as this test. First, second, and third ID. When a toggle is switched on. Now, our view is actually changing here because now that we're returning more information, this is our generic, these are all the views in the system, we do actually need to check that things like switching on and off toggles actually work. So this test now needs to read single active should be true. And we also need to check that when a toggle is switched off again, which requires it to be on in the first place, so we'll do that and this. So now we've checked those are handled, we now need to check that we handle the add and remove tags. So let's use this again. Let's remove the useless white space because Rider can't do it for us. When a toggle has a tag added, tag added, And a tag has a name, so that tags should be new array string 1. And then we'll have the same test again, but with removing. Beginning to think these tests need refactoring slightly. Tag removed. Where's a tag removed? Should be empty. Actually, let's do that. Let's add 2 tags, and then assert that we've still got one of them in the collection, not that we've just accidentally cleared the whole collection out. See, auto-formatting, not removing this. Not adding it either, which is at least something, I guess. Build succeeded. Let's see if the tests actually pass. These shouldn't pass because we haven't implemented handlers for them. No tests found. That seems unlikely. There's definitely tests there. I guess this is right, I'm not quite supporting .NET Core. .NET test source Crispin.tests Crispin tests. Oh, this is speedy. Wow, this is terrible. Quite tempted to just push to my app player, that might be quicker. What are you doing? Why are you being slow? Test host exited. It is not possible to find any compatible framework version. The specified framework Microsoft Core App version 1.1.2 was not found. Right. Clearly I need a different number there. Two. Let's see, this is a program as well. Let's see what that one has in it. Net Core App 2.0. Let's use the same thing. Not quite sure what's going on with that. That's gone weird. Yes, I know it's not fully supported. Next, presentation mode. See if we can get some more useful information out of Rider. Build. What are you going red for? No apparent reason. I still get the distinct feeling that .NET Core isn't quite ready for real use yet. Nothing seems to quite work as I expect. And we still can't find any tests. Maybe the test runner will work now that we've changed to 2. Or we'll get some different errors, you know. At least we got tests. Even if this is refusing to find them. Oh, maybe. Oh, hooray, we've got our tests back. No, we haven't. We briefly had tests. Useless thing. Let's try and run them all again. Maybe I need to update XUnit now that I've got .NET Core 2. I kind of wish it was back compatible. Alright, back to presentation mode. We'll just run them from the command line for now. Right, we know what we need to fix anyway, and that's the fact that we are consuming messages, not in that. Where is our projection? Here. So we're consuming messages, but we're not consuming all of them. We need to register for toggle switched off. Let's do this in line because it's quicker. Toggles e.id active equals true. See, I know this is claiming it's broken, but it isn't. Everything is fighting me at the moment. So switched off, and we also need tag added. Tag added. Keep doing finish keyboard layout shortcuts, which are not helping me. Toggles. Tags. Add. Either. Name. Yep, and we'll do that. Removed. And in fact, I think we're going to use a hash set on this anyway. Because now we don't need to worry about how to check if something's in there or not. String, comparer, ordinal, ignore case. So now we can just do add and remove, and it'll just magically work. Right, so if we build that, and then rerun the tests on the command line, because Rider has forgotten how to find my tests, or at least find them in a way that it can run them. Yes, well, I suppose no, you can't, can you? set string. Dictionary, give it. Oh, yeah, would probably help if I was referencing the right thing rather than the actual dictionary of everything. Okay, there's an await to fix and something about type converter. Right, our tests now pass at least. Let's see what we've done. We have changed to let's commit that separately. .cs project. Do we change anything else? Packages? Nope. So tests. Update to netcore app 2.0. So tests run. Right. And here, projections. Change all toggles projection to use a toggle view rather than dictionary. Right. So now at least we have a toggle that can run properly. Our projection, and we will be able to hook it up to this, and we have a vaguely working API. I think that'll do for this evening. Yeah, at least we managed to get some work done. As always, I'll just push this to GitHub. Yeah, as always, source code's available on my GitHub, and if you've got any questions, send me a tweet. All the details should be below this video on the Twitch channel. So thanks for watching, everyone.